And it could be an AFC championship preview. It could be a divisional round preview. It could be, we could very well see these teams in the playoffs again, like we saw them last year. It's Chiefs Ravens. This one's in Kansas City. Carmen, I'm going to ask you first. As the guest, I'm going to give you the first crack at what your matchup that matters is here for this game.
My matchup that matters, and I think it's probably an obvious one, is Derrick Henry against the Chiefs defensive box. Pause. Here's the thing.
5 minutes in the show, we already get the first pause.
I know. Well, I have it written out as like the Chiefs box, so I was like, pause. Sorry, guys. As you guys get to know me, you'll know that my humor is that of a 12-year-old boy's. But anyway, back to what's happening on the field here. There's been so much made about pairing Lamar Jackson with Derrick Henry, and rightfully so. I think we need to really understand, though, why that's so dangerous schematically, because when you're looking at having two dynamic runners that the defense has to account for, you're essentially getting the benefit of trotting out 21 personnel, but not having to sacrifice a receiver to do it. That's insane to me. And it makes my brain hurt thinking about how you try to defend that. Sure, because theoretically, you have, again, those two runners in Derrick Henry and now Lamar Jackson, but then you also have, you can't take away a defensive back in the back end because you could still have three receivers on the field. And oh, by the way, Mark Andrews being one of the best receiving tight ends in football.
Yeah.
It's an absolutely just impossible situation for a defense going against it. I'm so excited to see how defenses try to contend with it. And Spags is going to get the first crack at it. The thing is, too, loading the box against Derrick Henry doesn't exactly always work.
Right.
Against 8-man boxes, he's faced the most 8-man boxes, first of all, because I think that's everybody's first inclination is like, oh, this man is a cargo plane of a player. Let's try and load the box against him. And then he, in turn, has the most yards after contact against 8-man boxes. It's the next closest player is Christian McCaffrey. And like Derrick Henry had 446 yards after contact in 8-man boxes. Christian McCaffrey had 360. So there is a large discrepancy, even accounting for the fact that Derrick Henry faces these more than most.
Yeah.
On top of that, the Chiefs don't really run a lot of 8-man boxes. They prefer kind of just the standard 7-man.
Sure.
I don't know how, again, that's going to necessarily work out. It's going to work out on the back level when you talk about the Ravens passing attack. But then at the same time, I feel like Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry are going to be able to carve you up underneath. And it might not be flashy and it might not be sexy, but they're going to get 5 yards every single time, at least, underneath. And they can just kind of move down the field that way. So how the Chiefs decide to contend with Derrick Henry with Lamar Jackson is going to be very, very interesting. I think it's going to just hinge on that front seven, but I'd be lying if I told you I knew what they were going to do with the front seven. I just know it's going to have to be them.
Yeah, look, I think that's a major point of this game. There's no doubt about it. And how they deploy their tight ends, I think is going to be interesting. The Ravens, because it's not like Derrick Henry didn't come from a smash mouth type of football place before under Mike Vrabel, but Todd Monken's the offensive coordinator for the Ravens. You and I know Todd Monken really well from when he was the offensive coordinator of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they used a combination of Cam Brate and OJ Howard very, very well. And so it's like he's not going to be afraid to get creative with those guys as well, where, like you said, you could still be in a power offensive formation and pass the football. So a lot of sort of like in theory success is there for this Ravens offense with Derrick Henry. And of course, like you said, how he sets the tone against whatever the Chiefs go-to run-stopping formation is, whether it's an 8-man box, whether it's a 7-man box, whatever, that's going to go a long way into this game. My matchup that matters, I'm sort of going to stay on that side of the football, but I'm going to get more detailed with an exact player versus player. Zay Flowers, the Ravens wide receiver, versus Trent McDuffie, the Chiefs cornerback. McDuffie's now taking over those full CB1 duties with L'Jarius Sneed now gone on the Tennessee Titans. And McDuffie was you could see that he was sort of on that rise last year. 80.8 coverage grade last season. He played on the outside. He played over 600 snaps on the outside. He played over 300 snaps in the slot. So really versatile in that way. And Zay Flowers sort of mirrored that. Like he was the go-to guy for the Ravens passing attack, at least from the wide receiver spot. Flowers, if you include the playoffs, had over 1,000 yards receiving. The next closest wide receiver was Odell Beckham Jr., and he didn't even have 600. So like it wasn't even close. It was sort of like what you're saying, like Derrick Henry, not even close to whoever was in second place. Zay Flowers to whoever was in second place in this receiving game wasn't even close. And so I think an X factor will definitely be when the Ravens go to pass, are they still able to rely on Zay Flowers to be their guy, even with Trent McDuffie being the primary player who's covering him? Whoever wins that matchup, I think, could go a long way into who wins this one. But outside of the Derrick Henry factor, who's your plus factor? We'll do that for every single game, by the way, guys. We'll give you a matchup that matters, and then we'll sort of also throw in a plus factor here. It's like an X factor, but, look, PFF Plus subscription. You see how it goes? Synergy. That's what we're trying to do around here, folks. But who is your plus factor here for the
my plus factor is, again, a group of people, unfortunately, but it's a group of people that acts as one, and it's the Ravens offensive line, because that's how you unlock all of this. That's how you give Lamar Jackson time to throw on top of blocking for Derrick Henry, because even dump trucks need blocking. Apparently,
it's true.
And this is a unit that suffered some losses in the offseason, and I really want to see if we're overblowing that or not. I've been kind of in the camp that I think they're going to figure it out. But they're going against a pretty formidable opponent to get out the gate in the Chiefs D line, trying to contend with Chris Jones up there. So I really think that it's all going to hinge on how well the Ravens offensive line can sustain the departures that it had, and see like what that looks like and how much they really need to be involved for Lamar Jackson and for Derrick Henry to still have success. I tend to think, again, we were overblowing it because you saw what Derrick Henry was able to do in Tennessee with varying degrees of offensive line play. It's just, I think it's one of those things where I don't think we were talking about enough about the losses that they sustained. And so I want to see what it looks like now.
Yeah, Roger Rosengarten specifically getting into this lineup, it's like he isn't that type of Ravens offensive lineman we're used to. Like, he's more of a finesse pass blocker, and they kind of like road graders. So how he fits into this, I think you're right. It's going to be a big deal. My plus factor is Mahomes. Wow, shocker, Trev.
Shocker.
Nice. Starting off with a deep cut here. Glad we needed PFF subscriptions for this one, buddy. No, okay, but I am going to go a little bit deeper. Okay, I am going to get into the PFF stats and advanced things here for Mahomes. In 2023, this was tough to believe when I saw this. Mahomes completed just 18 passes when targeting a receiver 20 or more yards down the field. Just one touchdown. All regular season, one touchdown when throwing the ball more than 20 yards down the field. Like, that was a major part of the first 3 years when he was in Kansas City of their game. And I don't think they had the personnel to do that. I think they really made that an emphasis this past offseason, but do we see it right away here? Are they able to attack deep like they were during the first 3 years of the Mahomes and the Chiefs era? Because it has not been like that the last 3 years, and specifically last year, they were not able to do it. So I think that is something that we've got to watch out for. Will they be able to attack the field deeper down the field?